Welcome back. So we are going to finish putting the information into our poster today, and then tomorrow all that will be left is to make it look good and super legible. So far we've got our title, and we explained the Congress, and now we're going to give a definition for federal republic, and we're going to talk about the three laws that were made about slavery. Okay, so federal republic. If you remember from the reading, a federal republic is a government where the states, the individual states, make some of their own laws, and then there are some laws that national or the federal government make that govern the whole country. So that's what we want to capture in our definition of federal republic. So let's see what we've got here. You want to come around? So let's see. Let's start by calling it a government. Where power is shared between the individual states and the national and federal, they're the same thing. Two different ways of saying the same thing. Okay? So that's the first part. It's a government where power is shared between the individual states and the national or federal government. And then the next part of what we want to say is, what's the difference? So the state governments make laws about things that are just for that state, about things like education, business, local taxes, things like that. And then the federal government makes those laws that are about the whole country. For example, they're the ones that get an army together. They make decisions about how to interact with other countries. They make decisions about taxes that go to everyone in the country. Okay, so let's see. How about if we say states make laws for their own government, i.e., like for example, schools, businesses, and then the federal make laws for whole country. Woo, just barely fit. Okay. And if you do a better job of planning, you can fit some examples in there too. All right, so that's a federal republic. Now, laws about slavery. There were three main laws that we talked about in this segment. The first one is that they're going to allow slavery to continue. Remember, they got a lot of pressure from the southern states. Southern states threatened to leave the Union if they didn't allow slavery to continue. And then, oh, hello, Jimmy.
Hello.
All right. we're kind of busy right now, Jimmy. Okay, and then what were the other two things about slavery? One was what we called the 3/5 clause. And that, oh, Jimmy, all right, sit down. The 3/5 clause meant that 3/5 of enslaved people would count towards the population. Remember, that was really important to the southern states because that would mean that they'd get a lot more representation because they had so many enslaved people living in that state. It would really bump up the number of representatives that they could send to the House of Reps. Okay? They wanted 100% of enslaved people to count, but the compromise was that they would count 3/5. Okay, and then the final one is that if a slave, sorry, I don't want to say slave, I want to say enslaved person, because a slave makes it sound like that's just the kind of person that they are. And that's really not it, right? They're people first. They're people who have been enslaved. It's one of those language things that's just more appropriate and respectful. So I grew up, when I learned history, people talked about slaves. They didn't say enslaved people. But I'm learning, and one of the things that I've learned is that it's more respectful and more accurate to say an enslaved person. So, if an enslaved person, you can come around again, escaped and was caught, they would have to be sent back to slavery. Okay, so now we have all the information that we need on our poster, and tomorrow we will just review it a bit and put finishing touches on our poster so that it's super legible and the really important facts stand out. Okay? All right, I will see you next time. Bye.